do you think we should revise the policies on juvenile justice, right? And I told him, I said, listen, I'm not the expert. I have some members of my organization that have been direct filers juveniles and been working on this issue. I would be happy to have you speak with them. But let me give you a starting point, right? And here was a very simple starting point. For anyone that wanted to fix a policy, a change a policy, or a condition, it was very simple. I looked at the gentleman, you know what I told him? Imagine if your son made a transgression, how would you want him to be treated? And that would set the foundation for the policies that you should advocate for, right? Now, that connection there was love. The action, the initial action that I use for others is to connect them with someone who they love, right? I'm not expecting them to love me immediately, right? They may reject me because of the color of my skin, but that initial seed is connecting them to someone that they love. And so when I would approach a person that could have biases, racial biases, and I have. And I've approached people with political biases. I have, right? It wasn't a question about the politics. It wasn't a question about me. The question was, do you have someone who you love who ever made a mistake? And that oriented them, right, around love, and it was an immediate connection with someone that they had a relationship with. And that was the guiding force. So in spite of any negative ads, in spite of any contrary narrative, what they had as their North Star was the love of someone that they cared about or that was close to them. And in that love, that allows them now to get in a space to where we can have even further communication, and that person now develops a love, not only for the person that's close to them, but someone else who just entered into their universe.
So when we look at this broader context of civil unrest, and you're saying the listening, this courageous listening, we both know in the education space, children are always listening.
That's right.
When we think they're not listening, they're listening.
Yes.
So, and they're listening to things that we don't think we're telling them.
That's right. That's
right? So they've been hearing, I can't breathe. They've been hearing, they've been listening to the words, I can't breathe. How have you, as an educator and a leader in this space, how have you addressed that with the young people, the young lives, the impressionable souls that you are guiding?
Oof. Can I start with the big people first?
Yes.
And then we'll talk about the little people. So early March, we ended up, of course, having to leave the school buildings due to COVID-19 and were remote for 9 weeks up until the end of the school year. And about 2 weeks before the end of the school year, the murder of George Floyd occurred. And everything, we've all been watching everything that has ensued since then. And Khalil, I was wrestling with how to lead the adults because school ended.
Yes.
And I'm wrestling with, it's gonna be summer break. Teachers need the summer break. They've just been through the most tumultuous end to a school year ever. They need a summer break. There's some of us who work year round, but we had, I think, one of the most powerful team meetings we've ever had in 5 years that I've been here. And it was differentiated. So I said to the Black folks on the team, this is your question to answer. How are you prioritizing your peace and your healing? That's your question. White teammates, here's your question. How are you addressing racism with your white friends, family members, with white community? How are you addressing that? And it was such a powerful conversation that we ended up having. I think years of trust building helped facilitate the ease of that conversation. But at the end of the call, one of our Black men on staff, he is the epitome of tough guy. He's on our operations team, so very logistical, starts talking and talks about rage, the Baldwin quote. Yes. To be a Negro and relatively conscious in America is to be almost always in a state of rage. So he talks about this, how he's just angry right now. And then he breaks down in tears. On a call there are 30 of us on this call, he breaks down into tears because he's talking about his son, Max. He and his wife have an 18-month-old baby. And he breaks down into tears and he says, I am so fearful that somebody will look at him, make a judgment about Max. There's nothing I can do to protect him. And I'm like, I don't even get to enjoy being a father because I'm already worried that somebody will take his life. And I was messed up. I have heard my husband say this all the time. I have a stepson who's grown, and I've heard my husband replay over and over encounters with the police, his worries for his own son. And in a moment, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this might not have been the right conversation for us to have. I don't want this Black man to be out here now, his pain vulnerable and visible for everybody. And then I thought, I wonder how many of our white teammates have ever seen a Black man that they know intimately, up close and personal, weep out of fear that he can't protect his son, that he doesn't even get to enjoy fatherhood. That's what I mean, Khalil, when I say listening. It's got to start with the listening. It's raw. It is painful. They needed that. My white teammates needed that. Some of the Black men needed that because they don't even have the words to articulate their fear, their rage, how powerless they feel.
I do believe, though, that we human beings have the innate ability to rise above our limitations. And our limitations often are based on discrimination, on anger, on fear, on bitterness, and we can rise above that by always existing in an environment and atmosphere of love, by waking up every morning and looking at ourselves in the mirror and asking, Mikey, how are you going to be better today than you were yesterday? What is the one thing today that you are going to do that is good, that is going to make somebody's life better? It might be just saying hello. Those little acts of kindness that we have to express on a daily basis. And these are not things that are foreign to us as human beings, because this concept of Ubuntu that we South Africans pride ourselves is about caring, which Nelson Mandela actually preached and lived throughout his life. Because when he was president, he gave a third of his salary away. He made sure that he built schools because he believed in education for everybody, and that's how you uplift the poor out of poverty, by giving them a hand up, which is giving them access to education.
You know, it's not the destination, it's the journey, and understanding that the work that we do, we're going to make mistakes along the way, right? We're going to get some setbacks, we're going to have some victories, but we don't stop there, right? Because this is a process that's ongoing, and I think that that's the beauty of it, you know, and I think we embrace that, you know, because that, you know, it's the journey that I think that can bring us together, right? And more people we can have going on this journey, oh my God, the greater the experience.
When everybody's asking that question right now, black and white, is this going to be another moment in time where nothing changes? We've got such a tremendous roadmap in what Nelson Mandela did in South Africa. You know, the yoke of apartheid was heavy, and it took a lot, you know, uncomfortability, between, to say the least, between the blacks and the whites in South Africa. And the persistence that Nelson Mandela and all of those folks that were with him in the movement never let go. There was that consistency, that intentionality. I only hope and pray that that's where we are today. And I believe it will be. I believe it will be if we continue these conversations.
And one of the biggest wins, if you will, out of this is a friend who told me just last weekend, Ken, I'm glad we had that conversation a couple of weekends ago, because I've realized I need forgiveness for this. I've thought about this the wrong way. I didn't think about it at the time, but I acted that way. I need forgiveness for this. And it's been powerful, because there's an awakening or something going on for so many of us, so many of our neighbors who say, I guess maybe I'm open to looking at this a different way now. Yes. And that's huge.
That's the work. It's hard work, it's painful work. I'm not even qualified to take us through those conversations, but they have to happen. It means that I am gonna hear some things that make me angry, sorrowful, and I'm gonna have to listen to folks who might be in different stages of a journey than I am, and listen with compassion, and listen with a lot of grace and patience. So for me, it all starts with the listening. And then from the listening, maybe we become curious, because we actually stopped talking enough to seek to understand one another. And if I become curious, then I might actually want to learn something. And, you know, we've got this quote downstairs on the first floor: education is the most powerful weapon with which we can change the world. And it's not just the education that happens in the formal, you know, K through 12 or through college. That education can happen anywhere, but for me, it really does start with listening. That's how we get to reconciliation.
When I think about truth and reconciliation, one of the things that comes to mind for me is that forgiveness takes one person, reconciliation two. The idea of truth and reconciliation is that regardless of the fact that many of us come to this conversation with irreconcilable experiences, truth and reconciliation conversations invites us to be courageous listeners. It invites us to be compassionately empathetic, hearing the stories of others, hearing their experiences with racism. Then what we're able to do with truth and reconciliation conversations is begin a process of healing that moves us beyond the woundedness and allows us to hear in each other's voice our shared humanity.